So in this video we're going to take a look at this ex-BBC broadcasting light. I've been given this to get it up and running for our London Road studios in Alderley Edge for Edge FM. So this is inherently quite a relic, so it's got a XLR mains connector on the back, which is just a 2-pin connection. Then we've actually even got a 4-pin DIN. I'll put it in some better light for you. And that is what gives it the control. So I would imagine this connected it to some kind of control system. I'm really not sure. Whatever it was very old. Internally, this has actually got a little relay in there, so you feed the mains power in there. I mean, it almost looks like a figure of 8, although it's certainly not a figure of 8 connector. And then you've got the DIN socket for the control, and all that literally does is it sends anything between 3 and 24 volts to turn the relay on and off, which consequently turns the bulb on and off. So it's just basically a project enclosure with a light frame and a little bulb inside there at the top. So I've just removed the 4 screws from the bottom of what looks to be a project enclosure, but it's been one that's been very well adapted for this particular use, because it's been very well earthed, as you can see through here. They've got the XLR power connection kit on there installed to stop you from getting a shock. It's all very well insulated, and this relay here is why I said anything between 3 and 24 volts will do it, because it says on the left hand side, not that the camera will focus to show you. So this is your control connection. So you've got a green cable which is for your earth, which is also linked to the mains earth, and then you have a red and a black wire that's going into your relay that's just going to drive the coil to turn the live mains on and off, which connects directly to the bulb. And each of the 3 screws for the bulb base are also earthed, which is why I said so well built. But the point of me actually getting this apart is because this connector here is an XLR mains power connector, and it's not made anymore. It's actually quite hard to source, and they are inherently very expensive. And there was no point in me buying both that and the 4-pin DIN connector, because we only really need to turn the mains power on and off, and I've actually got my own relay control board that I intend to use with this. So instead of using the relay that's integrated into there, I'm going to basically just turn the mains power on and off to this connection here, using this board. This was actually the main control system board for my house sound system, and that's why you can see it's labelled zone 1 through to 6. The reason 6 has got 3 relays is because it controlled the outside speakers and then the 2 subwoofers in the garden. So this was actually wired to my control system computer via a USB connection, and it would turn off all the individual speakers that were wired to the amplifier, although I recently went under a major refurbishment, which meant that I didn't need this anymore. It was redundant because I found a better way of controlling it. So this is now going to be repurposed to the studio light controller, which at the moment there's only this one light, but we're currently exploring options of actually putting a light on the outside of the studio, which this obviously is very capable of doing that, because you've got up to 8 relays. The world's really your oyster with it, because you've just got so many relays on here, and this board is not cheap. It's about £80 to buy. So it's nice that I can really put it back into service than it just sitting gathering dust. So I'm going to bypass the relay that's integrated into here, which means that I need to basically rewire the 2 live connections so that they're both connected, to bypass this, ultimately this switch that's controlled via the DIN connection, because all I'm going to do is run power to it via one of the grommets on here using the special XLR connection, take it to one of the relays, which will turn the mains on and off, and obviously this has got plenty of grommets to put the cables in, bearing in mind it had loads of thick speaker cables going into it previously, so I'm sure this will be a piece of cake in comparison. So I've got my crimp kits here, because I'm going to basically make it so that these are connected together, and I don't want to cut these off and join them together, or crimp them together even, because I want to leave it original. So if we ever do intend to use this DIN connector, or if we were to resell it, whatever we want to do, I just don't want to have to rip any of these connectors off or change how it's made, because it is being made so well. So I'll quickly do that now and show you my solution to getting this light to with just basically just any old switch 240 volt source. So with this, it's basically just a case of trial and error, finding which crimp it is you need to join these together. Obviously, you don't want to use one that's too small, because it's loose and it might short something out and blow something up. It is mains after all, so it has to remain safe and insulated throughout. This has got many connections, so you don't want to use one that's too loose, and obviously it's blatantly obvious you don't want to use one that's too large, because it simply will not fit in that connection there. So I'm going to proceed to connect these together to make a little loop cable that will bypass our relay that we no longer need. To do this, I'm just going to use some speaker cable that's of a sufficient gauge because it's very, well, it's at least as thick as the mains cable, if not thicker, so this will be enough. I'll just put my crimp loop on here. So our little loop cable has been made nicely, and I'll just simply connect it onto there now.